Hi everyone, I'm Matt from Looking to Bitcoin, and today we're going to be looking at Bitcoin dominance. To do this, we'll be using a number of resources that are all freely available on lookingtobitcoin.com, your number one source for Bitcoin information. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to ensure you're receiving all of our content as soon as it's released. So right now we're just on the Bitcoin live price page here on Looking to Bitcoin. And as we can see, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll find this Bitcoin versus Ethereum ratio. And as we can see, this has been on a little bit of a downtrend for the past day. But if we go to a bit of a longer time frame, we can see over the past year or so, it's still down about 11%. So what this is actually showing us is how much Bitcoin you could buy with one Ethereum. So when we look at the standard Bitcoin chart, we can see that Bitcoin may be priced at $30,000, and essentially this means one Bitcoin will buy you 30,000 US dollars, or vice versa, $30,000 will buy you one Bitcoin. So with the Bitcoin versus Ethereum ratio, this is BTC versus Ethereum, or if you look at the ticker on something like TradingView, it'll be ETH BTC. So what we can say is that one Ethereum will actually just buy you about 0.0668, or about 1/15th of a Bitcoin. And then in reverse again, one Bitcoin will probably buy you about 15 Ethereum. And as we can see, this is like any other price chart, it has cyclical nature to the upside and the downside. And if you weren't already aware, you probably are. Along with Ethereum and Bitcoin, there are a multitude of different cryptocurrencies people can buy, sell, trade, invest in. And as these cryptocurrencies come and go, gain popularity, the space evolves, more retail interest comes into effect, and ultimately the space tends to grow a little bit as well. Obviously, there are many projects that purely are speculative pump and dump schemes, but they do still have an effect on the industry and the digital asset class as a whole. And what we can do is actually compare the market cap of Bitcoin against all other cryptocurrencies. Now, this is known as the Bitcoin dominance. So if we aggregate all digital asset market caps, divide that and then multiply that by the Bitcoin market cap, we can see as a percentage what amount of the entire crypto market is made up purely from Bitcoin. So if we go to TradingView here, I've loaded up already the BTC.D chart. So anyone can do this, and it's cool because you can go down onto any time frame and see the effects of the underlying price of Bitcoin and other crypto assets and how that actually impacts the dominance of Bitcoin. Or if you actually invert this chart, you could almost see it as an altcoin dominance. You could see the entire crypto industry minus Bitcoin. But if we just go back to the Bitcoin dominance chart here, what we can actually do is overlay the Bitcoin price action, because we can see there is actually a fair amount of correlation, well, almost an inverse correlation, or if not a correlation, then at least some cyclical or seasonal correlation that we can use to help improve our Bitcoin and general crypto trading, investing, and analysis. So I've just turned the Bitcoin price to logarithmic so it scales a little better. We can see after the previous bull market in 2017, 2018, as soon as Bitcoin's price topped out, the Bitcoin dominance dropped dramatically. And this is generally because money flows from stablecoins into Bitcoin, then usually into larger caps like Ethereum, before going into smaller and smaller market cap assets as people try and squeeze out every last bit of profit possible. And we can see in the most previous bull cycle in 2021-22, we could see a very similar story. After we kind of peaked, or a little bit just before we peaked in this instance, we saw Bitcoin dominance drop dramatically from over 70% down to around under 40%. So a very stark decrease there. And what we could also see is if we go back to 2018, 2019, after Bitcoin had bottomed in price, it between $3,000 and $4,000, we could see the Bitcoin dominance, as Bitcoin finally begun to kick off its new bull cycle, began to rise fairly exponentially. And from the bottom of Bitcoin dominance after the bull market to the peak of Bitcoin dominance in the next bull market, it increased from around 35% to over 70%. So Bitcoin dominance over doubled in under a 2-year period, which is pretty substantial. And what we can see is it's not been quite as similar in this most recent cycle we've had over the past couple of years. Bitcoin dominance dropped fairly dramatically, as we'd kind of expect after the Bitcoin price had peaked, but we never really got this huge rebound in Bitcoin dominance like we did in the previous cycles. Now, this may be because there's been an increase in interest in other assets such as stablecoins, which aren't necessarily reflective of cryptocurrencies in their speculative nature, but definitely have a lot of interest due to, of course, their peg to traditional fiat currencies like the US dollar. But just generally, as more altcoins are made, this kind of dilutes the entire crypto industry, and we can get this watered out effect where previously Bitcoin was maybe competing against a few hundred other altcoins, whereas now it's maybe competing against tens of thousands of different cryptocurrencies, which definitely helps altcoins and their market cap when compared to the Bitcoin market cap. But what we can do is if we just add in a line here, we can see this is a pretty significant line for the Bitcoin dominance. I'm not sure if you're much of a technical trader and investor, but what we can see is this has been a key level of support and resistance, or basically a big point of interest for traders and investors. We can see Bitcoin dominance bounced off this line before breaking through, trying to break through again before dropping even lower. And then finally, once we broke back again, and over the past few years, we can see this has been a very significant line in the Bitcoin dominance. We could see we've tried to break out, but every time we reach this line, we've dipped even lower in the dominance. However, in this most recent few weeks and months, we've reached this line, but Bitcoin dominance hasn't seen a stark drop like we usually do. Now, this is leading many to believe that Bitcoin dominance potentially is about to see a breakout to the upside. So if we actually draw a line like this, we can see dominance has risen almost exponentially into this very key area that a lot of traders and investors will be watching. Now, of course, we have to take into account that if Bitcoin dominance breaks above this line and rallies to the upside, this doesn't necessarily mean that other crypto projects are going to be losing value. All it means is that Bitcoin is outpacing them. So if we go to the Bitcoin versus Ethereum ratio chart here, we could see if we actually look at an all-time chart here, that as this increases the upside, Ethereum becomes more valuable in comparison to Bitcoin. Once we see this drop significantly, this could be in tune with the Bitcoin dominance increasing. And as we said, this dominance has an almost seasonal cyclical correlation with the Bitcoin price. And after each bull market, we usually see this decrease substantially. And after each bear market, we usually see this increase substantially. So as we're at this pretty critical turning point, if we were to break to the upside and dominance was to continue higher on its trend, where could we maybe expect dominance to reach? Well, I think a region such as this would be a key area to watch, from around 57 to maybe just a bit lower, 60-ish%. Now, this would be about a 50% increase in dominance from the lows we set on this cycle, from around 40% up to 60% if we were to reach that high, which is significantly lower than the 35% to over 70%, the 100% increase we saw in dominance in the previous cycle. But for the reasons we discussed previously, I personally don't think this is going to increase too substantially like we have seen previously. However, if we do see this, this may be a good indication that Bitcoin is really kicking off a new bull cycle, as new capital flowing into the industry goes to the large caps such as Bitcoin to really drive up and drag along all currencies behind it. And then after we've peaked maybe in our next cycle, we'll start to see this dominance decline as money flows into more speculative assets, as people, like we said, try and squeeze out every little bit of profit possible. So just to summarize, following a Bitcoin bear market, we tend to see a large increase in the Bitcoin dominance, or the percentage of the total crypto market cap that is solely made up of Bitcoin. And while we have seen a move upwards from the lows we set previously in the bear cycle, we're now at a key level where Bitcoin dominance could decisively break through, leading to a vast outperformance relative to altcoins. But also consider this doesn't necessarily mean altcoins will go down in their USD valuations. All it means is in comparison to Bitcoin. And also acknowledge that dominance could have already peaked and we may see altcoins outperform from here. Of course, this is all dubious speculation, and trying to predict the future is always quite difficult, and reacting to the data we're already given is always much easier, simpler, and often considerably more profitable. If you liked the video, then please visit lookintobitcoin.com, where you can also consider becoming a site subscriber to get access to live chats, in-depth newsletters, indicator alerts, private trading view scripts, and more, all for a fraction of the standard industry price. And let me know in the comments down below, do you like trading altcoins and other cryptocurrencies? Are you investing in them for the long term, or maybe you're just trying to increase your Bitcoin stack? Or are you a pure Bitcoin maximalist? Let me know in the comments down below and on social media. I look forward to reading and replying to all of them. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.